you can see here levy and collection under CGST. That is not yet discussed. That is related to this salvage value insurance company, etc. That is coming in first chapter. Okay. Next, look into this levy and collection under CGST. Oh, that question you want me to do? That already QR code is there. So already the QR code is there. That transportation sector, biscuits, floor, that question only, na? Okay. QR code is there. Scan it, you will get it. Say this. So, levy and collection under CGST, section 9. We are discussing section 9. Section 9 talks about who is liable to pay GST. General rule, liability to pay GST is on supplier. Liability to pay GST to government is on supplier under FCM. But there are three exceptional cases, 93, 94 and 95. In case of 93, liability to pay GST is on recipient. 94 also liability to pay GST is on recipient. And 95 liability to pay GST is on e-commerce operator. So when 93 will be applicable? In case of notified goods or services. And what are the goods and service notified? So goods are notified under notification 4/2017, service under notification 13 of 2017. And how the supplier should be? Supplier may be either registered or unregistered. Whereas when 94 will be applicable, if there is a promoter or builder who is making purchases from a unregistered person, then 94 will be applicable. What are notified? Purchases by a promoter or builder. And who will pay GST? Recipient will pay GST. Supplier should be unregistered. Then 95 talks about supply of notified services through e-commerce operator. Who is liable to pay GST? E-commerce operator is liable to pay GST. What are those notified services? HATE. H for housekeeping services, A for accommodation service, T for transportation of passenger service, E for eating food from a restaurant. In case of housekeeping services, like a supplier should be unregistered. Accommodation service also supplier should be unregistered. But the next two service is there, na, T and E. Supplier may or may not be registered. You can see there. So in case of, that's why I gave it like HATE. First two cases, supplier should be unregistered. Then only it will come under 95. Next two cases, T and E, supplier may or may not be registered. Always it will come under 95. Then what are the goods which are covered under RCM? Notification 4 of 2017, section 9(3), read with notification 4 of 2017. You need to remember this way. First, supplier is an agriculturist and the recipient is registered. So first you remember that there are 4 goods. What are those 4 goods? Raw cashew nuts, raw cotton, tendu leaves, tobacco leaves. Raw cashew nuts, raw cotton, tendu leaves, tobacco leaves. By whom? By an agriculturist. To whom? To a registered person. Then only it will be RCM. What if to an unregistered person? It is not in RCM. Then it will be FCM. If it is FCM, who will pay? Agriculturist. But agriculturist will not pay. Why will not pay? Because he is exempted from registration as per section 23. An agriculturist is exempted from registration. Who is an agriculturist? Agriculturist means individual or HUF. Only two. Individual or HUF engaged in cultivation out of land. So companies or partnership firms will maybe engaged in cultivation of land, but they will not come under agriculturist. You can see that in the next page. Agriculturist means individual or HUF engaged in cultivation of land. Should they only cultivate? Not necessary. They can employ the labor and they can do cultivation, or they can get it done through family members also. Okay. Then so that is this, but the charge will be FCM only. See, if the recipient is unregistered, the charge is FCM, but they will not pay GST. Like that you need to write. So don't change the charge. Charge will come. First you need to answer about taxability or exempted, and then you need to answer about the charge, whether it is FCM or RCM. So even if it is FCM, but if the supplier is unregistered, they will not pay GST. So you need to write GST not payable. Okay. So supplier is an agriculturist and the recipient is registered. 4 goods: raw cashew nuts, raw cotton, tendu leaves, tobacco leaves. Then next one, there are 2 goods: essential oils other than those of citrus fruit and metal scrap. This essential oil somewhere already we have come across, that is export of goods. There are some notified goods wherein you will not get the refund. In that we have essential oils other than those of citrus fruit, and again here then metal scrap. Metal scrap is a newly added amendment, that is supplier is unregistered and the recipient is registered. What if supplier is registered? It will not come under RCM. It will be FCM only. Supplier is unregistered, the recipient is registered. What if supplier is unregistered, recipient also unregistered? First of all, there is no GST, because between two unregistered persons there won't be GST liability. Is that clear? Sir, compulsory registration. Yeah, in the RCM itself, when they say the recipient should be registered, don't bring in compulsory registration. When the RCM point is silent, the RCM itself is applicable only when the recipient is registered, means don't invoke compulsory registration there. When the RCM says import of services by other than non-taxable recipient, like that it is given. Now what if that non-taxable recipient is unregistered? Compulsorily they need to register, like that. But if the RCM itself is applicable, if the recipient is registered, then only if they are registered it will be RCM, otherwise no RCM. Got it? So that's what here it is given. Supplier is unregistered, recipient is registered, only two goods, that is essential oils other than those of citrus fruit and metal scrap. Then supplier is government and recipient is registered. What are they? Lottery tickets and used vehicles or seized goods or confiscated goods. So that is supplier government, recipient is registered. Then other points, silk yarn by a silk yarn manufacturer to a registered person, and priority sector lending certificates by a registered person to another registered person. These are other cases. So these are the list of transactions which are covered under RCM. You need to remember this and revise it one day before the exam, and you need to go for exam, because definitely you will get 1 or 2 points related to this for sure. In 14 marks question you may get, or in MCQ you may get, or separately also they can create a question on this. Then next one, you see this points. Point number 1, supply of metal scrap by a registered person to registered person. So it is not covered under RCM. Metal scrap by unregistered person to registered person is only in RCM, but registered to registered is not covered under RCM. Then it will be FCM. But in that case TDS will be applicable. What is the rate of TDS? 2%. So you can see, however, the said transaction is notified for TDS under section 51. That is another amendment in TDS, where the recipient is required to deduct TDS at the rate of 2% on the payment made to supplier. Now I have converged these two into this chart. Supply of metal scrap, any metal scrap, it can be iron scrap or steel scrap or any kind of metal, So don't just get carried away, but that it should be only iron metal, iron only, iron ore, or it can be steel, or it can be tungsten, or it can be titanium, any kind of metal scrap here. Okay, so this particular metal scrap by a registered person to a registered person, FCM or RCM? Definitely FCM. TDS? Yes, applicable. TDS also applicable. FCM applicable, TDS applicable. By registered person to unregistered person, FCM or RCM? FCM. And whether TDS is applicable? No, TDS is not applicable, because the recipient is not registered. By unregistered person to registered person, FCM or RCM? RCM. TDS not applicable, because the supplier is unregistered. Both should be registered, then only TDS will be applicable. Supplier unregistered, recipient also unregistered. No GST. GST not applicable, and TDS also not applicable. Is it clear? Next. So see the another point. Agriculturist means individual HUF engaged in cultivation. Then as per section 23, an agriculturist is exempt from registration provided they are engaged exclusively in supply out of cultivation of land. They should not be doing any other process. For example, there is a groundnut farmer who is engaged in getting groundnuts and selling groundnuts. They are only in agriculture, their sale of agricultural produce, so they are not required to register. But they are also doing groundnut oil. They are crushing the groundnuts and extracting groundnut oil and selling groundnut oil. Now they will lose the status as exclusively agriculturist. So therefore, in that case, we need to see their aggregate turnover. If that is crossing threshold limit, then they need to register. Till the time they are making exclusively agricultural produce, sale of agricultural produce, they are not required to get registered. Then look into some other points. The maximum rate of GST is 40%. So 20% CGST, 20% SGST. But right now the maximum effective rate is 28%. It can go up to 40%. That is the meaning. And generally GST payable to government by supplier. Therefore, if a supply is not covered under 93, 94, 95, it is always forward charge mechanism. And if a supply is covered under RCM, who is liable to pay GST to government? Recipient is liable to pay. What if the supplier has paid the GST? Whether the recipient is exonerated from payment of GST? No. Exonerated means relieved from payment of GST? No. So it is as good as recipient has not paid GST. So the recovery will be initiated on recipient, whereas the supplier has paid excess tax. So he will be getting the refund. So if a supply is covered under RCM, recipient is not exonerated from payment of GST if supplier discharges the liability. In such case, recovery of tax can be initiated by department on the recipient for non-payment of GST. GST under RCM is always payable using the electronic cash ledger. Yes, because we cannot use electronic rate ledger for payment of GST under RCM. Then you can see here notified services under notification 13 of 2017. Sir, CG got salads. This is the list of services you need to remember. First, S for what? Security lending services. I for import of services. R for renting of motor vehicles. Another R for renting of immovable property. Then CG, copyright services. And G for GTA, goods transport agency services. Then G, government services to business entities. O for overseeing committee services to RBI. T, TDR, FSI and long-term lease. Then salads. Sir, CG got salads. S for sponsorship services. A for agent services. Then L, that is legal service by individual advocate or firm of advocate. Another A for arbitrator services. Then D, yes. D for director services to company or body corporate. Last, yes, security agency services. Now, we will see for each and every service what are the exemptions and is there any condition for RCM and non-applicability of RCM. Non-applicability of RCM means exception. Generally, these are covered under RCM. Non-applicability of RCM means in exceptional cases it will be FCM. First, security lending. So, in case of security lending scheme, there is a lender of securities who is giving securities to the borrower of securities and it is a SEBI approved scheme. In that case, the borrower is required to pay the lending fees. On that lending fees, the borrower only will pay GST under RCM. We don't have any exemption and we don't have condition for RCM, non-applicability of RCM. Then import of services. Just now we completed import of services. There are two exemptions. Exemption number 1, import of other than OIDR services by non-taxable recipient is exempted, or Indian establishment of a foreign airline company importing service from its head office without consideration provided there is a reciprocal exemption. These are the two exemptions for import of service. In other cases it will be taxable. Do we have any condition for RCM? No condition for RCM. But non-applicability of RCM, generally import of service is RCM, but one case it will not be RCM. What is that? Import of OIDR services by non-taxable online recipient. Then next step, renting of motor vehicles. We have seen in exemption for renting of motor vehicles, we have 4 exemption. Number 1, hiring of motor vehicle that can carry more than 12 passengers to a state road transport undertaking. Hiring of electric vehicle that can carry more than 12 passengers to a local authority. And hiring of motor vehicle that can carry goods to a GTA. Hiring of bus to a person who provides transportation service to education institution up to 12th standard or equivalent. These are the 4 exemptions. Other case it will be taxable. Wherever it is taxable, there are 3 conditions for RCM. What are the 3 conditions for RCM? Supplier should be other than body corporate. Recipient should be body corporate. Rate of GST should be 5%. If any one condition not satisfied, it will be FCM. And what is the meaning of body corporate? You just write down there. Body corporate means private limited company or public limited company or body under any law. Private limited company or public limited company or body under any law. Body under any law means, so ICI, ICSI, ICMA, RBI, SEBI, all these are coming under body corporates. Okay. However, so LLP is a body corporate or not a body corporate? Not a body corporate. That also you write down there. LLP is treated as a firm, clearly defined in notification. So in the notification itself it is given, so no debate in this. So clearly they have given that LLP will come under firm. So therefore LLP should not be treated as body corporate for the purpose of GST. It should be treated as firm only. Okay. So here when it will be 5%, usually the rate of 5% will be applicable in case the cost of fuel is included in the rental. So when I am giving motor vehicle on rent to you, the cost of fuel is included and I am not taking ITC on my inward supply, the rate is 5%. Otherwise, we have some other rates also. So in the question only 5% is given, we need to take RCM, otherwise RCM will not be applicable. Then next one, renting of immobile property. In case of renting of immobile property, for residential property, we have seen some exemptions. What is that? Residential property for residential purpose to an unregistered person, or residential property for residential purpose to a registered individual for family stay. Even that accommodation services latest amendment is applicable for residential property as well as commercial property. And what is that? Minimum stay of 90 days, that is greater than or equals to 90 days and subject to maximum of 20,000 per month per person. Then for residential property, do we have any condition for RCM? Yes, there is a condition for RCM. What is that condition for RCM? Recipient should be registered. If the recipient is registered, then it will be covered under RCM. Okay. What if recipient is unregistered? Then it will be FCM. That is, wherever it is exempted in the remaining cases. If it is for commercial purpose, it will be taxable na. There if the recipient is registered, then it will be RCM. If the recipient is unregistered, then it will be FCM. Then in case of commercial property, there are two conditions. For residential property, only one condition for RCM, that is the recipient should be registered. For commercial property, two conditions are there, that is supplier should be unregistered and the recipient should be registered. Otherwise, if the supplier is registered, definitely it will be FCM. And if the question is silent about registration of a person, you need to take the assumption that the person is unregistered person. Already in the list of assumptions I have included that when the registration of a person is not given, just they gave A Limited or Mr. Rahul, like that they have not given anything, then we need to treat them as unregistered persons only. Then next one, see for copyright services. In case of copyrights, total 4 copyrights are there. Original literary means what? Books, novels, etc. And then dramatic works means stories, screenplay, writings. And then musical works means composing music, like background score or playback, etc. Then artistic works, drawings, designs, etc. All these 4 copyrights should be by an individual. It should be by an individual to any person. For example, there is a company, music company. That music company owns a copyright of the music, which is giving it to any other person. They get a royalty, FCM or RCM? FCM only. It will not come under RCM. A music director who is an individual giving the music to the music company, will it come under RCM? Yes, it will come under RCM. And moreover, remember, it is temporary transfer of IPR. It's not a permanent transfer of IPR. Temporary transfer means permanent transfer will come under supply of goods. And in this case, do we have any exemption? For all these 4 copyrights, we don't have any exemption. So it will be always taxable. And any condition for RCM? No condition for RCM. Any exception to RCM? Only one place there is an exception to RCM. What is that? Author. Author can opt to pay GST under FCM. But when author opts to pay GST under FCM for the next 1 year from the date of exercising the option, author only will pay GST under FCM. Why will an author opt to pay GST under FCM? Because the author, if opts for RCM, when his outward supply covered under RCM, author cannot take ITC on their inward supplies. Due to that reason, they will be going for FCM. But the problem is that for the next 1 year from the date of exercising the option, they only should pay GST under FCM. Then next we have goods transport agency. For goods transport agency, just now we discussed 3 exemptions: specified goods, agricultural produce, food grains including flours, pulses, milk and salt, organic manure, newspapers and magazines, relief material for natural man-made disasters, defense and military equipment. Second point is what? If the recipient is individual, HUF or a trust or AJP and they are unregistered and not having factory, or if the recipient is government which is registered only for deducting TDS. These are the 3 exemptions. In other cases, GTA services will be taxable. Wherever it is taxable, do we have any condition for RCM? Check there. No. And is there any exception? Yes. GTA can opt to pay GST under FCM. If you observe the entire table, only 2 places this option of opting for FCM is there. That is for author and next for GTA. But the difference is that author will be opting for FCM for the next 1 year from the date of exercising the option. They will only pay GST. But in case of GTA, for every financial year, they need to opt for FCM. And that option they need to select between 1st January to 31st March of the preceding financial year. Then next we have government services. In this government services, we have 14 specific exemptions and 2 general exemptions. And this government services is to business entities. It will also include services provided by court or tribunal or state legislature or parliament to business entity also. But court or tribunal is excluded from supply. So what is covered here? Court or tribunal premises will be given on rental also. So that will be covered under supply. Only legal fees collected by court or tribunal is excluded from supply. So these services are covered here under government services. And do we have any condition for RCM? No condition for RCM, only the exemptions. And there are 5 situations where RCM will not be applicable. That is renting of immobile property to unregistered business entity, Department of Post, railways, transportation of goods or passengers, and airport or port services. Then next we have O for overseeing committee. There is an overseeing committee which is appointed by RBI for the purpose of restructuring the non-performing assets of the banks. For that, this overseeing committee will get a commission from RBI. That commission earned by this overseeing committee, RBI only will pay. We don't have any exemption, we don't have condition for RCM and non-applicability of RCM. Then next we have TDR, FSI and long-term lease. TDR, transferable development rates, FSI, floor space index and long-term lease. In that connection, we have one exemption. What is that? If their promoter or builder is using this for construction of residential units, to the proportion of residential units booked before completion divided by total carpet area, that is exempted. Remaining will be taxable under RCM. Do we have any condition for RCM? No. Non-applicability of RCM also no. Then we have sponsorship services. SALADS, sponsorship services. For sponsorship services, we have seen one exemption. What is that? Sponsorship provided by recognized sports body is exempted. Other sponsorship will be taxable. What is the condition for RCM? The recipient should be body, corporate or firm. What if the recipient is other than body, corporate or firm? Then it will be covered under FCM. Then next, A for agent services. Who are the agents covered there? Total 5 agents you can see. Insurance agent providing services to insurance company. Liability to pay GSTs on insurance company. But do we have any exemption? Yes. If the insurance agent is a business facilitator or business correspondent working in rural area, then it is exempted. Any condition for RCM? No. Any non-applicability of RCM? Also no. Next point you see, there is a recovery agent. That recovery agent is providing service to bank, financial institution, NBFC. What if there is a recovery agent who is providing service to a car dealer or another person? That will be not covered under RCM. Only recovery agent should be providing services to bank, financial institution, NBFC. Do we have any exemption for recovery agent? No. And any condition? No. Any exception to RCM? No. Whereas next one, direct selling agent. Recovery agent basically recovers the outstanding loans, whereas direct selling agent will do the marketing of the banking products. Direct selling agent to again bank, financial institution, NBFC. Any exemption? No. But there is a condition for RCM. What is that? Supplier should be other than body, corporate or firm. What if supplier is body, corporate or firm? They only will pay GST under FCM. Then next one, business facilitator to a banking company. Do we have any exemption? Yes. If the business facilitator is working in a rural area, then it will be exempted. Any condition for RCM? No. Non-applicability of RCM also no. Then the next one is not business correspondent, it is agent of business correspondent. Agent of business correspondent providing services to the business correspondent. What about business correspondent service? It is FCM only. Only business facilitator service is RCM. Agent of business correspondent providing services to the business correspondent, it will be covered under RCM. There also we have one exemption, that is if the agent of business correspondent is working in rural area, the commission earned by them will be exempted. Do we have any condition for RCM? No. Non-applicability of RCM also we don't have anything there. Then legal services provided by individual advocate or firm of advocate. We have 4 exemptions. If they provide services to a person other than business entity, it will be exempted. If they provide services to another individual advocate or firm of advocate, exempted. If they provide services to government, it is exempted. Central government, state government, local authority, government authority or government entity, not government agency, then it is exempted. If they provide services to a business entity whose turnover during the previous year does not exceed threshold limit, it is exempted. However, out of these 4 exemptions, the second exemption, that is services, third point, services to another individual advocate or firm of advocate, is not applicable to senior advocate. For senior advocate, exemption number 1 and 2 and 4 will be applicable. And any condition for RCM? No. Non-applicability of RCM also we don't have anything. Then services provided by arbitrator to business entity, same like senior advocate. If they provide service to person other than business entity, exempted. If they provide services to government, it is exempted. If they provide service to business entity whose turnover during previous year does not exceed threshold limit, it is exempted. Any condition for RCM? No. Non-applicability of RCM also we don't have anything. Then last 2, director services to company or body corporate. You remember, if the director is an employee of the company, how we will know that he is an employee of the company? Definitely TDS will be deducted under section 192 of Income Tax Act, or it will be given in the question that these under contract of service, not contract for service. then in that case the director is an employee of the company and the salary will be excluded from supply. Otherwise the director will be covered under supply. In that case payment of GST is by the company under RCM. What if the director is acting in his personal capacity? For example, I am a director of a company, I participate in the board meetings for which I get the sitting fees. On the sitting fees I will not pay GST, the company only will pay GST under RCM. However, I own a property, that property I am giving on rent to the company. Now will it be coming under director service? No, it will come under renting of immobile property services. So see the last point, exception to RCM, that is non-applicability of RCM. If the director is providing service in his personal capacity, that cannot be coming under RCM. We need to check based on the service. Then last, security agency services. Security agency is like a manpower supply agency which will be providing the manpower. And in the security agency service, we have one exemption we have seen. What is that? Security agency providing security personnel within the premises to an education institution providing education up to 12th standard or equivalent, that is exempted. And is there any condition for RCM? Yes, two conditions are there. Supplier should be other than body corporate and the recipient should be registered, not body corporate. Recipient is registered, but they should not be opting for composition scheme and they are not registered only for deducting TDS. If these two conditions are satisfied, RCM, otherwise it will be FCM. Done. So we completed the list of services. This table somehow it should be injected in your brain, okay? And because whenever you read the transaction, you need to apply this and analyze whether it is exempted or taxable and where it will be coming. For sure, without touching this table, you will not be writing your exam. So 14 marks question, definitely you will come across this, okay? So that's the reason why you revise it as many number of times as you can. That is very, very important. Then next. So what we have seen so far is section 9 subsection 3, notification 4 of 2017, list of goods under RCM, notification 13 of 2017, list of services under RCM. Now we are moving on to section 9 subsection 4. 9 subsection 4 is applicable whenever there is a promoter or builder who is making purchases from an unregistered person. Now this 9 subsection 4 is a long time due. They have not at all asked any question in this. Maybe ICA feels that it is not important also, but just quickly we will try to understand what is it about. First of all, section 9 subsection 4 will come into picture whenever there is a promoter or builder who is purchasing from an unregistered person. Now the purchases of promoter or builder will be divided into capital goods, cement and other inputs and input services. First step number 1, you see capital goods. Whether capital goods is purchased from a registered person or unregistered person. Say capital goods is purchased from a registered person. Already they paid GST to that supplier. The supplier would have paid to government, so there is no loss of revenue to government, so ignore. Whereas if the capital goods are purchased by the promoter or builder from an unregistered person, then the promoter or builder is required to pay GST under RCM. At what rate? Because he purchased from unregistered person means there is no GST paid to the supplier. So he need to pay GST under RCM. The intention is very simple. They wanted to tax the real estate transactions. Moreover, why will they buy from an unregistered person? Because this particular builder is under construction of real estate projects, which is residential real estate projects. Residential real estate project, the rate of GST is 1.5%, 7.5% without ITC. So naturally they will buy from an unregistered person to save the GST there. That's why government is telling that they need to pay GST under RCM. In case of capital goods purchased from unregistered person, what is the rate at which they need to pay GST? At the rate applicable to capital goods. If the capital goods is 12%, they will pay 12%. If the capital goods is 18%, they will pay 18%. If the capital goods is 28%, then they will pay 28%. If the capital goods is exempted, no need to pay GST under RCM. Then, suppose if it is cement, so we need to see again whether cement is purchased from a registered person or unregistered person. Cement is purchased from registered person, already GST paid, so ignore. If cement is purchased from unregistered person by the promoter or builder, then they need to pay GST under RCM at the rate of 28%, because that is the rate applicable to cement, so 28% should be taken. Whereas other inputs and input services from an unregistered person divided by total inputs and input services, we have a relaxation. Up to 20% you can buy from unregistered person, because naturally there are some inward supplies like cement, manpower, etc. and all, which will be from an unregistered person only. That's why 20% relaxation is given. So you need to see other inputs and input services from unregistered person divided by total inputs and input services. While taking the total inputs and input services, don't count 5 inputs and input services. What is that? TDR, FSI, long-term lease. Why it should not be taken? Because it's already covered under 9 subsection 3. Anyhow, we need to pay GST under RCM, so don't take. Electricity, don't take, because electricity is exempted. So naturally, we will receive it from an unregistered person only. Thereafter, petrol, diesel and natural gas. These are non-taxable supplies, so we will get it from an unregistered person only, so exclude this. Why alcoholic liquor for human consumption not given? Because it's no way connected to construction. And why this aviation turbine fuel or crude oil is given? Why we will use aviation turbine fuel and crude oil in construction? We will not use. So due to that reason, it is not given there, and remaining things are given, so we need to take out. So now we need to see inward supply from unregistered person divided by total inputs and input service into 100. If it is up to 20%, it's okay, allowed. Up to 20%, leave it, it's okay, allowed. So we don't have to pay any GST and RCM. What if it is beyond 20%? So how much is allowed? 20. Beyond 20% means, say for example 24%. Then on that excess 4% is there na, you need to pay GST under RCM. At what rate? 18%. What if those goods are taxable at 12? 18%. What if those goods are exempted? 18%. You understood or not? Flat 18% you need to pay. What if it is more than 18%? Will not come, because that's already covered under cement. So cement already we are paying 28%. Okay. So GST payable under RCM on the excess over 20% at what rate? 18% under RCM. That is with respect to this. And I'll give you one small question just to have an understanding of this. So say this, there is a purchase, inward supplies, of promoter or builder, inward supplies of promoter, or builder. We have from unregistered person and from registered person. Capital goods from unregistered person 20 lakhs and from registered person 40 lakhs. And the rate applicable to capital goods is say 18%. Then cement purchased from unregistered person 10 lakhs, from registered person 30 lakhs. Then we have other inputs and input services, from registered person 40 lakhs and from unregistered person 50 lakhs. So registered is 50, unregistered is 40. Now we need to compute GST payable under section 9 subsection 4. So what we will do in this case? First, step number 1 is with respect to capital goods. Capital goods, whatever is purchased from registered person, ignore. Purchased from unregistered person you take, that will be 20 lakhs. On the 20 lakhs into 18%, that will be, so 3,60,000 will be taken. Then step 2 is cement. So you need to see cement. How much is the value of cement? From unregistered person 10 lakhs. On the 10 lakhs we need to take 28%, that is 2,80,000. Now you see step 3, that is other inputs and input services from unregistered person. Others from unregistered person divided by total into 100. What is the others from unregistered person? Others from unregistered person is 10 lakhs and 40 lakhs. That will be 50 lakhs. 50 lakhs divided by total. What is the total? 10 plus 40 plus 30 plus 50. That will be 130 lakhs. 50 lakhs divided by 130 lakhs into 100. So that comes to 50 divided by 130 into 100, 38.46%. So just take 4 digits, 4615%, which is greater than 20%. So on that excess we need to pay GST, that is 130 lakhs into 18.4615%. On that the GST rate will be 18%. Okay. So 130 lakhs into 18.4615%. On that 18% will come to 4,31,999. So 32,000. So the total GST under RCM, total GST payable under RCM, that will be how much? So this 40 only, na? 40 only. Why you said 50? 40 by 130. You did not tell, I only said. Other inputs, cement already considered, na? Cement already considered. So then it is 40 only. From unregistered person, 40, not 50, 40. 40 divided by 130 into 100. So 40 divided by 130 into 100, then also it will be more only 30.7692%, and therefore here we will not take 18, we will take a different number, that is 10.7692%. So you calculate that again, 130 lakhs into 10.7692% into 18%, that will come to 2,52,000. Now you do the total, 2,52,000 plus 2,80,000 plus 3,60,000, that will come to 8,92,000. This will be the total GST payable under RCM under section 9(4). Okay. So maybe if you get a question like this, you need to write the answer. That is about 9 subsection 4. Then you can see 9 subsection 5, liability to pay GST on e-commerce operator. There are 4 notified service: housekeeping services, accommodation service, transportation of passengers, and eating food from restaurant. In case of H&A, supplier should be unregistered. In case of T&E, supplier may or may not be registered. And in case of housekeeping service, what if supplier is registered? Then it will be covered under FCM. Means 9(5) is not applicable. Same way, accommodation services, what if the supplier is registered? Again 9(5) will not come, supplier only will pay GST. In case of transportation of passengers by any motor vehicle, so in that case we have one exception, that is if it is by a company through omnibus, there is a company which is transporting passengers through omnibus, it's not covered under 9(5), so FCM, so supplier only will pay GST. So what is a omnibus? Capacity greater than 6 passengers. Passengers means excluding driver seat. Capacity greater than 6. Greater than 6 means 7 plus driver seat if you add 8. So 8-seater vehicles. If it is a 8-seater vehicle, okay. So omnibus means what? 8-seater vehicle. 8 seaters. 8-seater vehicle. Then it will be called as omnibus. If the transportation is through omnibus by a company, then it will be coming under FCM only, 9(5) will not be applicable. Same way for last point also, eating food in a restaurant also we have an exception. What is that exception? If the restaurant is in this specified premises, what is the specified premises? There is a hotel. That hotel, accommodation in the hotel, that is any one room in that hotel is greater than 7,500 rupees per day. In that hotel there is a restaurant. That restaurant is selling food through Swiggy or Zomato. The restaurant only will pay GST. Swiggy, Zomato will not pay GST. If the restaurant is in the specified premises, that is in a hotel, having declared tariff greater than 7,500 per day. Okay. So then it is not covered under 9(5). So FCM, supplier only will pay. Like this, these 4 notified services, we have 4 exceptions. Now, important points. Whenever e-commerce operator is liable to pay GST on above services, they are not required to deduct TCS. Generally, e-commerce operator required to deduct TCS, but in case of 9(5) it is not applicable because they are only paying GST. So TCS under section 52 and section 9(5) GST liability by e-commerce operator is mutually exclusive. Whenever 9(5) comes, section 52 will not come. Whenever section 52 comes, 9(5) will not come. Only in case of notified services, that is this 4 notified services, GST payable by e-commerce operator. In other cases, who will pay GST? Supplier only shall pay GST. And e-commerce operator will pay GST on what? On the commission. E-commerce operator will get a commission. Now on that commission, e-commerce operator will pay GST, and every e-commerce operator who is liable to pay GST or who is liable to deduct TCS is compulsorily required to get registered. Then what about supplier of goods through e-commerce operator? In case of supply of goods through e-commerce operator, it's not notified under 9(5). Supplier only will pay GST. Are they compulsorily required to get registered? If they are making only intra-state supplies, then they are not compulsorily required to get registered. They need to register only when aggregate turnover exceeds threshold limit. Otherwise, every supplier of goods through e-commerce operator is compulsorily required to get registered. However, if such supplier is making only intra-state supplies, they should register as and when aggregate turnover exceed threshold limit for registration, and they should obtain a unique enrollment number. Then supplier of notified service or supplier of other than notified services, they need to register only when aggregate turnover exceeds threshold limit. There is no compulsory registration for service provider through e-commerce operator. Only for supplier of goods through e-commerce operator only we have compulsory registration. Then next one, if the e-commerce operator is liable to pay GST under 9(5), we need to check whether they have physical presence in India. If they have physical presence in India, they shall register and pay GST. What if they don't have physical presence? Then they should appoint a representative, and that representative shall register and pay GST. What if they don't have representative also? They shall appoint. In the absence, they shall appoint a representative, and that representative shall register and pay GST. That is about the section 9(5).